So last year, we were introduced to several new gTLD complexities that involved launch fees, withholding of names, and some problematic registry models. So let's take a look at the current new gTLD domain landscape. New gTLDs, like I said before, account for 3% of total domain registrations and total 11.5 million domains. You could see from the chart on the left, in terms of total registrations, the most popular are .xyz, .top, .wang, .win, and .club. The list on the right is a representation of what corporations are registering. You can see it's a very different list than what the general public is registering. Since the launch of the new gTLD program, over 800 TLDs have been delegated. There were 121 open generic TLDs that launched in 2015. And over 15, we saw an increase in the geo or professional types of TLDs. In 2014, roughly 10% of the 290 gTLDs that launched were restrictive in nature. And in 2015, upwards of 18% of the 121 TLDs that launched required registrants to provide some type of requirement, like a local presence requirement or some type of DNS requirement to complete the registration. And we do expect this number to increase slightly over the course of 2016 as more industry-specific extensions go live. So MarkMonitor took a closer look to see how particular verticals were protecting their brands in the new gTLD space. We found that companies are registering selectively and taking advantage of blocking where available and registering where there's a close correlation between their brand and the TLD. So from this representation, it makes sense that a hospitality company would register a .vacation, .rental, a gTLD like .nyc or .london, and that pharmaceutical companies would protect themselves in .healthcare or .exposed. So very interesting to see how particular verticals and how corporations overall are protecting their names, their brands in this domain landscape. While the total number of launches decreased last year, 120 compared to 290 in 2014, there was not a decrease with complexities that brand holders faced. The increase in the different types of launch phases challenged brand owners. We witnessed more brand protection pricing tiers where brands had to pay premium prices to protect their brand, and we saw an increase in the problematic registry models. Prior to new gTLD program, we saw launch phases that consisted of a sunrise period, a limited registration period, maybe a grandfather phase. There was a land rush and then an open registration or general availability. But now we're seeing increase in the number of registries utilizing an early access period or EAP as part of their launch plans. EAP fees have been known to reach upwards of $5,000 for registration on the first day. Excluding donuts and right-side registry extensions, there was only one new gTLD that operated EAP in 2014. In 2015, we saw 17 other registries run early access periods as part of their launch plans. And EAP has been fairly successful for certain registries, and we anticipate that more registries will adopt this model in 2016. Brand holders faced their brands being withheld as part of qualified launch program or reserve lists. And the qualified launch program basically allows registry operators to register up to 100 domains to third parties prior to the sunrise period for what they say is the purpose of promoting their TLD. So on top of that, we saw an increase in the number of premium domain names, which I'll go into in just a bit. But what we did, a good thing we did see was the release of the previously unavailable domains that were on collision lists. And overall, brand owners paid more to register their brand in 2015. To purchase a domain during Sunrise in 2013, the average price ran around $275 per domain. As we moved into 2014, it increased by almost $100 and averaged around $375 per domain. The average in 2015 was $1,000 per domain. And this was the increase was inflated due to registries who had Sunrise fees in excess of $1,000 per domain, as well as gTLDs who had yearly registration prices of upwards of $2,000, even in general availability. So, as more extensions have gone live, it is apparent that these registry reserve lists and premium domain lists have grown as well. When the first 39 new gTLDs launched in 2013, the average premium list length was just about 2,800 names per extension. By the end of 2014, that had grew to 3,300. In looking at the premium list in 2015, over the 120 gTLDs that went live, the premium list grew to just under 35,000 domains per extension. So is anyone actually using these new gTLDs? So far, we haven't seen a lot of new gTLDs in use. We're starting to see a little more use with generic TLDs, with some local companies advertising in their local areas with a .pizza, or we're starting to hear some commercials. There was an example of a gal who was promoting her talk show with the .show, and then there was a lot of news around Google's abc.xyz. When we looked at what corporations were doing with their new gTLDs, we found that 78% of new gTLDs were not resolving. When we looked at the new gTLDs on MarkMonitor servers, we found that hundreds of thousands of visits were captured so far. Some of these visits could provide valuable information and can convert to real dollars back to the company. In terms of .brand delegations, which means the TLD was added to the root zone, as of December 2nd, 261, or 45%, had been delegated. So while we haven't seen a whole lot of use yet, I anticipate that we'll see more use in 2016 and in 2017. But for now, it seems to be more defensive registrations than anything.